All right, as you take a live look here at the White House, courtesy of EarthCam, though the president is in California at this time, our reporter, Chief White House correspondent James Rosen is there. We're following breaking news regarding President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, as, again, the charges have just been announced in court filings that have been made public this morning. Here's what we know. Hunter Biden has been charged with federal crimes. He's agreed to plead guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors and then also serve pretrial diversion agreement there, essentially probation for unlawfully owning of a handgun while being a drug user. That from the court filing that was put out by David Weiss. Chris Clark, the attorney for Hunter Biden, has put a statement out as well, saying this wraps up a years-long investigation into his client, Hunter Biden. We have this covered from all angles, obviously, legally, politically, reaction, all coming down the pipe. So welcome to a brand new hour of National Report. We're glad you're here. I'm Sean Kreisman.
And I'm Emma Reckenberg. Thanks so much for joining us today. Our reporter Christina Thompson has been following the breaking news all morning. She's live in our New York newsroom to break down exactly what we know so far. Christina.
Well, after a 5-year investigation, Hunter Biden is now pleading guilty in a plea deal for 2 charges that he's facing on taxes. And he'll also agree to charges related on a firearm to resolve those federal charges. Now, as for the tax charges, he was charged with 2 counts of failing to file taxes in a timely manner. That was in 2017 and 2018. These are both misdemeanors. He's also pleading guilty to a federal firearm offense of possessing a firearm while addicted to a controlled substance. Now, the charges were filed in a U.S. District Court in Delaware. That was by a U.S. Attorney David Weiss. Trump appointed him when he was president. He was allowed to continue this investigation when Biden went into office because he is exploring other allegations of money laundering, foreign lobbying, and other potential charges. Now, the federal offense, going back to that gun charge, it's going to be diverted because of his plea deal. So essentially, if he meets certain conditions, that charge will be waived. Details of that pretrial diversion deal will be publicly filed by the time that he appears in court for that plea hearing. Delaware's attorney, we just talked about him, David Weiss, also agreeing to a sentence of probation. So that deal will likely keep him out of jail, but it is up to the judge to still accept this. Sean, Emma.
Christina Thompson joining us live in the newsroom there in New York. We appreciate that. Meanwhile, back at a live look here at the White House, we'll take you. President Biden, again, not there. He's in California. He had his 2 fundraisers tonight there in California. Again, waiting to hear from the president after a 5-year investigation into his own son, in which he said he's done nothing wrong. Indeed, he's been charged federally. A lot of folks weighing in. Again, a lot of congressional leaders weighing in on this. Again, a 5-year investigation for what the attorney for Hunter Biden says has finally wrapped up.
We haven't heard from President Biden again on these latest developments, but we are getting reaction from some spokespeople within the administration. Newsmax Chief White House correspondent James Rosen live in our Washington newsroom. He's got additional details. James, good morning.
Emma and Sean, good morning to you. A spokesman for the White House counsel's office released a short written statement about an hour ago as the president prepares for a day of events, official and campaign related, out on the West Coast. The president and First Lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life, said this statement from Ian Sams of the White House counsel's office, adding, "We will have no further comment." President Biden's 2 press secretaries, Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre, have both said the president stands by his comments from the 2020 campaign, that he never once discussed his son's business activities with him. House Republicans, pressing forward with their investigation into those activities, claim to have obtained FBI evidence to the contrary, including purported evidence of a bribery scheme that is said to have netted at least $5 million for the elder Mr. Biden.
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President, what do you say to Americans to convince them that they should trust the independence and fairness of the Justice Department when your predecessor, Donald Trump, repeatedly attacks it?
Because you notice, I have never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge. I'm honest.
So there remain a number of outstanding questions about Hunter Biden and his business activities and what, if anything, his father knew about them and when. When we hear the president say it's a bunch of malarkey, that is intended to convey, of course, that it's all flatly untrue, but that's not exactly how the president put it. In old Watergate terms, that would be called a non-denial denial. And also a point of personal privilege. It was this reporter back on October 29, 2020, 5 days before the 2020 presidential election, who broke the story that Hunter Biden was under active FBI criminal investigation. At the time, DOJ and FBI said nothing. Hunter Biden's attorneys said nothing. The Biden-Harris campaign said nothing. The rest of the news media said nothing. Then, after the campaign was over, after the election, Hunter Biden stepped forward and acknowledged that he was indeed under active FBI criminal investigation. That investigation today is brought to a close. Sean and Emma.
Yeah, a lot of reaction there. Chief White House correspondent James Rosen, again, 3 years later, able to report, again, the findings from that investigation. James, thank you. Talking about reaction pouring in, this from Congress as well. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukart joining us live now from the Capitol. She has details here. Kilmeny, good morning.
Sean, good morning. Good to be with you. Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, who's a member on the House Judiciary Committee, tweeting out just a short time ago not to allow Hunter Biden's plea deal to detract from the testimony we're expected to hear this week from the special counsel charged with investigating potential collusion between the 2016 Trump campaign and Russia. His testimony on Capitol Hill this week, adding that the plea deal this morning is part of a bigger deflection scheme. We have also heard from the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer saying that the charges against Hunter Biden and his quote-unquote sweetheart deal will have no impact on the House Oversight Committee's investigation, adding that he will not rest until the full extent of President Biden's involvement in his family's schemes are revealed. We're going to continue to monitor that reaction. In the meantime, as we were talking about earlier, John Durham here on Capitol Hill. He'll be testifying behind closed doors before the House Intelligence Committee. And again, he'll be providing recommendations on how to move forward amid criticism that there is a two-tier system of justice from lawmakers here on Capitol Hill who want to look at reforming not just the FBI, but also the Justice Department. Now, Durham's report implicated a number of people, including the CIA's director, John Brennan, President Obama, and other senior FBI officials who reportedly knew about the Clinton campaign's plan to, quote unquote, vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to the use of her private email server. Well, over the weekend, of course, I spoke to Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew on the Judiciary Committee, where he will be testifying on Wednesday. Here's what he told me about the preview of the questions that he has for John Durham.
Well, I think we're going to get to the truth, John Durham. We're going to hear a lot of what the American public and what other congressmen need to hear. And I know I'm going to ask some tough questions, and I want some good answers. And frankly, I think he has the answers. At least we've got some real answers so far, and we hope to get a lot of more.
And of course, later this afternoon, we'll be hearing at a press conference from the House Intel Committee Chairman, Republican Congressman Mike Turner, as well as the ranking Democrat, for more on those recommendations of what has happened behind that closed door testimony at 3 p.m. Eastern.
All right, Kilmeny Dukart reporting live from the Capitol. Kilmeny, thank you very much. Of course, we're going to hear from members of Congress weighing in on this development, this deal, this pleading guilty deal again to those tax misdemeanor charges, and reaction from everyone across the country, including potential voters in the 2024 presidential race. For more on this now, we wanted to hear reaction from former Florida Attorney General, former Special Advisor to President Trump, Pam Bondi, joining us live. She's remote by phone right now. So Pam, welcome to National Report, and thanks so much for picking up the call. If we could just start with your overall reaction to the news of the day, Hunter Biden striking the deal on the tax charge and also this gun charge as well.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And I'll tell you, this is not unexpected. I've been saying for quite some time, this is how I thought they would resolve it, with a slap on the wrist, with misdemeanors. And here's the reason why. it needed to be done that way to favor him, because now it's called jeopardy. Jeopardy attaches to anything else, to any new administration, to any new Justice Department that could come in and try to go after him on these charges as felonies. That's why it's so frightening and so important what they did and why they did it. The American people need to understand that. So they let him plead to misdemeanors. So now anything related to those charges is off the table forever in federal court. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. First of all, I'd like to know where that tax money came from. What was that income? What entity was paying him the over $1 million that he just pled to 5 years later, by the way? And why did they reduce the charges? You know, they're so tough on these cases, especially if the money is dealing with foreign entities. Why in the world would they let him plead to reduce charges? Did the plea deal include immunity from prosecutors for any other prosecutions? Think about that. And why would you ever reduce a gun charge in the Biden administration when this current administration is so tough on gun control?
Interesting point. Pam, I wanted to ask you about that. We have all this information due to court filing that was made public here by the United States Attorney David Weiss, and he mentioned in that in terms of the gun, the one count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. Again, he has agreed to Hunter Biden has agreed to enter a pretrial diversion agreement with respect to the firearm information. That, according to, again, David Weiss. As far as the other, there are 2 misdemeanors that he will plead guilty to. Again, that agreement has already been made between Chris Clark, representing Hunter Biden, and then David Weiss as well. That will be submitted to a judge. Here's my question. Why does it take 5 years of an investigation by the top investigators, you would assume the FBI, the DOJ, why does it take 5 years to come to find out there will be an agreement with a couple of misdemeanors and a pretrial diversion agreement when these aren't irregular charges? There have been Americans that have been charged with paying their taxes late or, again, gun charges as well, and they've come out to some sort of plea deal. This one specifically takes 5 years, and nothing else was found other than a couple of misdemeanors and a probation agreement. Your thoughts?
Well, and those are the questions that need to be answered. Did the plea deal include immunity from other prosecutions? Why did they reduce the charges? They need to answer this. You know, why? I suspect that all the information on Hunter Biden's laptop solidified all of these charges. So they had to charge him with something. They had to. But I think they were probably worried that if they didn't reduce him to misdemeanors, a new administration could come in and rightfully charge him with much higher, greater charges. And why in the world? Okay, so you just told me they didn't just reduce a gun charge. They let him in pretrial diversion on it. That means there will never be a record against him on these charges. Nothing. And this administration is so tough on gun control. That is unbelievable to me that they let that happen. He lied on a gun application to, it's unbelievable, lied on a gun application saying he didn't have a drug problem. And that's pretty important. Do you want anyone who's a crack addict out there in a bathtub with crack pipes buying a firearm? Not in a million years. That's why it's important. That's why those applications are important. And the fact that they let him not only reduce it on the gun charge, but plead to a misdemeanor, a diversion program, is really, really unreal.
Yeah. You know, Pam, do you think there's a chance that the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, will come out and speak to the American public and sort of explain, sort of wrap up what these developments have been? How important would that be?
Well, it's the President of the United States' son. And again, I think there's a lot of issues on where the money came from, the money meaning the money that he didn't pay the taxes on. What entity did that come from? Were other families wrapped into that as well? So I think it's very important that he, and this was not a special prosecutor, so this was run through Merrick Garland's office.
Yeah.
There was no special prosecutor on this case. The U.S. attorney handled this in Delaware.
For 5 years. Again, wrapping up, we're getting the court documents made public today. We now know the plea agreement between Hunter Biden there in the District of Delaware with U.S. District, the attorney there. We appreciate the time. That is former Special Advisor to President Trump, Pam Bondi, also former AG of Florida. We appreciate that, Pam. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.